We're so glad to be back today talking about what new authors should know. We're going to be talking about that all month long, and I'm so excited to talk directly to the brand new authors out there. But before we dive into that, we're going to ask the writing gals what they've been up to. Michelle, you want to start?
Sure, because I don't have much. I wrote like one episode this week so far, which means I'm 2 episodes behind that I was hoping to get published yesterday and today, but now I'll get it done like tonight and tomorrow night probably. But yeah, just getting those episodes out and trying to deal with the rest of my life at the same time. But,
Right.
moving and grooving best we
That's
can.
right.
And sometimes that's not much, but we do all we can.
Good. Yep. Yeah, exactly. How about you, Anne-Marie? You have a friend.
Yes, my husband is coming home. Our kids were pulled from school for the next 2 days. So I took the younger 3 to the park, and he took the older 2 to do some work because they should be doing that. And so I'm just waiting for him to come home. But so I finished my book. Yay! Which is good because it's supposed to be up by the 18th. So I'm kind of I'm waking up with panic attacks because I have a lot of pre-orders on this, and so I'm like breathing deeply, like, let's go. My editor and my proofer are amazing, but I'm also like, I need this to be over, and then I think I can sleep better. So that's done. That series is written and out, which is very exciting. And then I just decided that I was going to make Q1 my get stuff together quarter, but I'm getting like whisperings of stories in my head. So I think I'm going to write. I'm like super excited because I feel like I've been doing like a lot of thinking about my books and what makes a book people talk about. And I really want to start writing stories that are more impactful, I think, than just an escape. So I've been thinking about that, and the reason it took me so long to get my book out because I am obsessed with TikTok. So I've been on there doing, and Laura's nodding. Yes, we have problems. We both talk to each other. We're like, yeah, I need to go to therapy for this. But
that's true.
But our Ballerina Academy first book got up into the 3,000s just from a TikTok video.
That's fantastic.
And then I did a video about how I was a sweet romance author, and I was actually pretty nervous about doing that because I don't like the whole sweet, spicy argument. I think readers can read what they want, but I also want people to know that I'm here. And it was interesting because a lot of people that commented on it were like, I sometimes need a palate cleanser. Like sometimes I want to read something that's not what I normally read. So it's great to know where you are. And that TikTok took off. Which is terrifying. I got a lot of people being like, I think TikTok is on the wrong, I think they don't understand me. So then I took that as like a challenge. I was like, oh, you might like sweet romance. And then I was like, well, what's your favorite trope? And then they engage back. And I've sent a book to a girl who was convinced she didn't like spicy. I was like, well, let me send you one of my books and tell me, and then you can, decide for yourself. So it's kind of become like a game now where I'm going to convince people. Or I have people who are like, that's not normally my genre, but I'll try it out because I'm intrigued. So although it was nerve-wracking, I'm really happy I did it because I really want people to know who I am and really promote that sweet romance is out there. A lot of people were just like, I didn't know you existed, or I'm going to go look at your books now and stuff like that. So that's pretty exciting. And so doing a lot of that stuff and just trying to survive, I guess, but it's exciting.
Very cool. And our guest, we have Laura Burton on again as a guest. What have you been up to, Laura?
Okay, so I'm writing this reader magnet, and I thought I'd make it easy on myself and do it where it's a prequel to a book that I have out at the moment that people are just loving. So I'm like, this is going to be so great. It'll go straight in. No, it's not easier. It's harder, actually. I feel like it's the pressure is getting to me. So I'm like, they really love this character and they really love this book. So I've got to make sure the prequel isn't rubbish. So that's getting in my head at the moment. But I'm 6,000 words in. So I'm getting there. And just my son started school after being homeschooled for 5 years. So this week I'm absolutely shattered, and I'm literally writing on my phone in the car at school run or talking to my phone. And when I'm dictating, it's terrible. It's like the worst English ever. But yeah, that's what I'm up to.
Awesome.
You have to tell people what you messaged last night about your perfect book idea that you got. It's so
Oh no.
funny.
I don't know if other authors do this, but every now and then, oh my goodness, actually I didn't tell you. Last night I got up because I've got to that age where you get up in the middle of the night to go to the loo. And I got up and I had this thought, and I don't know, I just have random thoughts. And once, okay, no, I'll tell you what happened last night. I bought, right, didn't remember this when I woke up until I got the email. I went on Amazon. I should be banned when I'm like asleep. And I bought an Elsa costume and wig. It's coming tomorrow. Like, why did I buy this? Why was this a good idea? Anyway, yeah, one night I woke up in the middle of the night and I was like, I have the best idea ever. Like, this is gonna blow minds. It's gonna be a blockbuster movie. I'm gonna be a millionaire. Like, I might win a Nobel Prize for this story. Like, I got so and so I was like, I better write it down because I'm not gonna remember when I wake up. So then I woke up and I got all excited because I looked at my notes and I was like, oh, what did I write? And it was like 3 lines, and it was like, woman's boyfriend goes missing. Woman feels like she's being followed. Twist, she is being followed. It's the boyfriend. And I was like, look at it like, oh, Laura.
I was like, I
is
have so
awesome.
many questions right now.
That's awesome. Well, I've also been working on a reader magnet and I hit 11,000 words. My goal is 15, so I'm getting close. I just have to eke out a few more thousand words and I'm done. So getting excited to finish that. I'm hoping to finish up by this weekend so I can work on my Kindle Vella story because I know everybody out there is wanting the next chapter and I'm sorry I haven't done it, but it's on my list. All right, we're going to dive in and talk about what new authors should know because we've all been new authors at one point in our lives and there were things we didn't know. So what do you feel like a new author should know? And we can just start anywhere, or if anybody has any questions, they can ask them. But I have a few things on my list, but let's go ahead and start with you, Michelle.
Okay. This is going to start out sounding mean. You're not as good as you think you are. But you're going to get a whole lot better than you could imagine if you keep going.
I love that.
It's like this weird state. There's an arrogance. I'm looking at myself here when you're a brand new author. And then it's weird because there's also that immediate, like when you're writing it, you feel like you're Shakespeare or something. And then you go back and read it again and you're like, okay, I am the worst writer ever. I should just give this up. I don't know what I was thinking. And you kind of like just switch back and forth between those two voices in your head.
I totally did that. It's like a coin. Yeah. One day you're like, I'm brilliant. And the next day you're like, I suck.
Yes. Yes. And that's why you just have to keep going because, and I've said this in our conference, it's kind of one of my soapboxes now, is that we all have to remember that writing is the same as any other creative field. Musicians, singers, artists, anything you can think of, the first thing they do is not a masterpiece. In fact, it's going to take so much work. You're going to, like any artist is going to have like a million sketches and a million canvases that they want to throw away or hide. In fact, if you look at any, like a lot of the actual masterpieces in the world, experts have done like the technology scanning thing of them. I'm not sure which one they're using. And they can see actually 2 or 3 paintings behind them that like Michelangelo and Vincent van Gogh and like all these people gave up on before they painted like the masterpiece on the front. That's just how it is. Like you're not going to get to master level until you go through a lot of failure and a lot of trying and a lot of getting back up again. So that's what I would say. Remember, this is a long haul pursuit, but you can get
Good.
there.
That's good. Anybody else want to jump in? Laura, do you have anything?
Yeah, well, I wanted to just say actually, Roald Dahl, I only learnt this recently. He wrote the BFG when he was 74.
Wow.
That kind of blew my mind. So if you're writing now, you've got a real head start.
Yes.
I did write a list. Mine's really long.
Awesome.
It's like Laura's do's and don'ts.
I love it.
And it's all come from all the things I've done wrong. Because that's how I've learned, is by making mistakes. But of course,
Me too.
in the IT world that my husband works in, I'm making it seem like he's there. He's not. It'd be funny if he was there. Anyway, sorry. It's fail fast and fail often. Just keep trying new things. That's one of mine. Where is it? What did I say? Basically, don't be afraid to mess up. I see this a lot of new authors, they go, oh, I want like the cover, and I want the editing, and I want like everything to be perfect, and the blurb's got to be perfect, and it's kind of paralyzing for them. And if they do it and they find it's not perfect, it's like this massive like, I did my best, I gave it my all, and I've shown everyone this product, and it wasn't where it needed to be, or it wasn't perfect. And then, oh my goodness, so many authors just give up.
Yes.
Or they're just too embarrassed, and they're just like, but really, just, you know, my dad always used to say, if a job's worth doing, it's worth doing badly. And I mean, oh my goodness, I killed a puppy in a sweet romance. I don't know how I'm still selling books, honestly. It was like the worst thing ever. I emailed Amy when I was like brand new, and I was like, this book is going to be amazing. And she's like, this isn't ready to publish. I'm like, oh, yes, it is. I've already published it. It's now unpublished. And I even went as far as to get in contact with Emma Thompson's agent, somehow managed to land a thing where they had a meeting to talk about the book. So bad. But anyway.
Wow.
You don't ask, you don't get. And it was embarrassing because I think I published like 4 books before I realized what it meant to write to market and what kind of book I needed to write. And those 4 books have all been unpublished now as I've worked out my brand. And it's okay. Like, I've done a lot of things that are very embarrassing and messed up a lot, but it's totally okay. In fact, if you're worried about messing up, just think about me. It's impossible to mess up more than me. So, and you just keep learning, don't you? As you experiment with new things, you can just go, oh, that didn't work, let's try something else, and pivot. And yeah, that's one of the main ones. I'll let someone else talk now.
Well, I totally love that, because, you know, you think as you're a new author, okay, I'm going to put out this book. It's going to be perfect. It's going to sell millions of copies and I'll be famous. And when that doesn't happen, you're immediately like, I'm a failure. And you kind of put all your eggs in this one basket, and you think that if this doesn't happen today, then it's never going to happen. But this just proves that is so wrong. You can put out 4 books that are not to market and total messes, and take them down and regroup and become a success. So yeah, I mean, the door's wide open. Even if you put out 100 books, you know, you can pivot, and you can write under a pen name and put out something completely different and have it be a success. So
yeah, even my favorite singers, if I like listen to like 3 or 4 or 5 songs of theirs, but I really start digging into like all their albums, their whole, like just song after song after song that I could leave or take, you know?
Yeah.
But when those good ones come along, then magic happens. I even taught a class in our conference called Breaking Up with Your First Book, because so many people, especially first-time authors, get so tied into that book emotionally.
Yes.
And they depend so much on that book being the embodiment of their dreams come true. And the best thing that they can actually do is just let it do its thing and move on to the next one.
Absolutely. Anne-Marie, what would you say to a brand new author?
So I have a couple of things, and mine are more like personality things more than just like make sure you have a newsletter, because I think that
Yeah.
those are specifics that we are told, and they are universal. But I would say my number one is be grateful for the luck that you get and recognize it as luck. Because I was always told authors are very selfish. And we're selfish in the reason because everything you create comes from you. Your book is a product of you. There's really no one else that's involved in the production of your story. So we have it can be a blessing and a curse, because we're like, well, look at what I created. This is awesome. I am awesome. And everybody loved this book. It is all me. Whereas in a movie, you have actors, producers, directors, light guys, makeup guys. You have all these people that conglomerate together to create one movie, where you can't just have Chris Hemsworth running around. Like, although I would totally watch that movie, like over and over again, but like he has to have like an actor to play against, and you have to have supporting characters and all these sorts of things. But authors are not like that. So while we will say, oh my gosh, this book did so well because I wrote it and I am so good, the flip side of that coin is if the book does bad, what did I do wrong? What is wrong with me? Mm-hmm. And when you see it like that, it's so mentally draining and you get just disheartened. And especially when you have, like, because we talk about how your first book is probably not going to be your best book. Be grateful. Be grateful that doesn't happen, because you will never be able to live up to that potential for that one book that would just hit the market at that moment. Like J.K. Rowling, Harry Potter is the only thing that she can write and get a ton of movement behind. She writes these other books, but because she's J.K. Rowling, but it's not like Harry Potter did. And if you have a book that gets out and it just takes off, then anything you write after that is going to be depressing. So have books that fail and be grateful for the process. I'm always like, I'm going to get my books that I have right now selling so that when I do have a luck book, that could, I'll buy a new car. That's extra money that I'm grateful for that's coming in. But if you don't recognize that Amazon picked it up, or a TikTok person shared it, or an Instagram influencer shared it, and my book sold because of that, if you don't recognize that, it will eat you alive, and it will crush your creativity, and it will crush your spirit, and it will make you an unhappier person. You will look at everybody as your competition, and everybody else is standing in your way. And if you could just get out of my way, then I'll do better. And it's not the case. So mine would be, see luck when it happens, acknowledge it for what it is, be grateful for what it is, but realize it's not the norm, because it's never going to be the norm. Even now, Twilight is not being sold as much as it was when it was first pushed out and made into movies and things like that. There was actually an episode, and I think it was the self-publishing formula, where they talked to the guy who wrote the book Warm Bodies. Did you guys watch that one? And how he's like, what is life like after a bestseller? So like he wrote this book. It was when the zombies was a big rage, and it's just a movie about a zombie kid that has to do something, and then he gets warm again. And so it's like during that time, and he wrote this book, and it just exploded, and it came into a movie. And it was like, you have press releases, you're meeting with actors, you're meeting with producers, everybody knows your name, but at some point that's going to come down, and you're going to have to return to your house and to your normal mundane life. And you need to be aware and prepared that there is going to be a valley after a hill. It's just the way law of attraction, law works, goes up, comes down. And so you have to be willing. And when you do, it takes so much pressure off you, because you're like, well, obviously I can't have all this line up again like it did for this book, but I can still write good books and entertaining books and please a certain group of readers, even if that same thing doesn't happen.
Good.
Sorry,
yes.
I'm very passionate about this, if you can't tell.
I love it.
So one thing I would tell new authors is, number one, don't go looking for your early first readers from like your friends and family necessarily, because number one, they're probably not reading the kinds of books that you're writing. Number two, any critique that they give you is going to feel a lot more personal than critiques you would get from your fellow authors. Or like people who are beta reading for you that are not your besties. And also, along with that, you may not get the support that you want from your regular circle, if that makes sense. So everybody's going to have different levels of support in their life, from their husbands, their boyfriends, their girlfriends, their sisters, their mothers, their grandmothers, their best friends. You know, it's going to really feel like you're alone in this. And sometimes, you know, sometimes that's kind of okay because they can bring a lot of toxic feelings to something that's already very hard emotionally. And sometimes they can turn out to be jealous and they can try and bring you down. Sometimes you're frustrated because you've bought all of their Jamberry and their Tupperware and their whatever they were selling for years, and then they won't spend 99 cents to buy your book, and feelings get hurt. So it's just go into it knowing that writing has a different, like a whole different population for you to experience. It's other authors and it's your readers. It's not necessarily the people close to you. And maybe it is, but it's fine. Like I remember giving my mother-in-law, who was super sweet to me and I love dearly, and she read my first book and she never said a word to me about it being good or not. And when she passed away, I found it and all she'd done is underline the typos in it. You know, and because it just
That's terrible.
Like that was just, it was, for one thing, she wasn't that much of a reader, but like
Cry.
I know.
It's really upsetting. You should have warned me. I don't have any tissues.
I'm sorry. And then like my husband is supportive of me as a writer, but he's not a reader. He doesn't read at all ever. And he was super sweet and he read one of my books on an airplane because he couldn't get a movie to download. And then he ended up like, you know, enjoying it and think I was a good writer, but it's not like he went on to read my other 30-something books, you know, and that's okay. I also have my mom and my sisters who are all very supportive and some of my biggest cheerleaders. I'm just saying, like, you may experience that. I see so many authors who are hurt because people in their life don't support them the way they're hoping. And just know that there is a huge community of authors who know what you're going to, who know how hard this is, to know how hard you've worked, how much of your soul you've put into this. And you can find the support that you need out there. And later when your readers discover you, there will be nobody who will champion you and who will lift you up like your readers will. So keep going. You'll find your people to help you when the times get hard. And in the meantime, you're just going to have to dig for that inner strength.
And if you don't have people yet, join our Facebook group. It's the Writing Gals on Facebook, and we will champion you. We know what it's like to be out there all by yourself trying to finish a book and not feeling like you have support. So we will definitely support you.
Can I say one?
Yes, you can.
So one of the things is love your fans. And I think we talk a lot about the writing community and we don't talk a lot about our fans. And you realize we have a lot of power as an author, right? So we have the ability to change a person's mood to affect the way they look at the world. That's a lot of power. And your fans trust you. And so make sure that you are doing the things to your fans that you have previously done. Be careful with changing genres. Be careful with changing those things. If you're not going to write in that series anymore, make sure that they are aware of that, because they really get invested. When you read, you become those characters. And so if things happen in the book that are not expected or what they wanted, they're good surprise and bad surprise. So be careful in bad surprising your readers. Don't badmouth your readers. Don't go and respond to reviews. One of the biggest things I learned was you could get in an argument with one of your readers, right? And how you react is how the rest of the world's going to view you. So I had this girl, this reader in my Facebook group come and was very upset with how much my paperbacks cost, or that there was only a certain number of pages. And I responded like, I'm sorry, you know, like, page numbers is an arbitrary number because there's a lot of things that you can do to make a book seem bigger and thicker. That's not necessarily the same amount of words, but I promise you they're good stories. They're full stories. You're not going to feel like this. And she just kept going on. And all my fans came to support me and say, you know, you will not regret it. Anne Marie, you don't have to justify yourself to these people or this person. And they came back and they said, I'm so someone messaged me and they're like, I really appreciate how you responded. It shows me now what I need to do when I go, or if I experience that other authors were watching me. So, you know, just be aware that your fans are going to be emotional, but don't, I hate seeing authors badmouth their readers. I really do. It's just, it doesn't look good. People have done it on Twitter, which I am not on because it's a dumpster fire, to the point where readers will then go on Goodreads and just gave that person a million 1-star reviews because they didn't like how that author reacted. So just be careful and love your fans. And I think one of the things that I never did was communicate with my fans, write a book with them. Seeing their excitement for your book is going to fuel you in ways that an author community couldn't give you. So like I decided with my paranormal romance series that I'm going to do a lot of TikTok videos. I want people just foaming at the mouth to get this book once it's read. I want them talking about it. And the way to do that, and people are going to love your book or your story, is to involve them in the process, to involve them in the storytelling and help them name your characters. That's what readers want. They want to be part of the process. So they feel like in a way the book is theirs too. And I never really did that. I was just like, okay, put a book out. And if this terrifies you, don't do that either. Like I've also learned, like, stop listening to other authors. There's that edge of it. But if you want readers that are going to be invested in your story, do it, because they will love you and love your readers. Like, don't badmouth them. Please don't badmouth them. It just makes you. My mom told me once when I was in a fight with my best friend, she's like, what that person says about you says more about them than it does about you. And that's really how you have to look at all these sorts of things. Like, people can make you upset. Or like, I could have gotten offended, those people on TikTok being like, oh, I'm on the wrong side of TikTok, or like, heck no, you know, and I could have been mad and just deleted them. But I was like, you know, they don't know. People don't realize sweet romance, what it is. You know, we need to educate them. They just hear no spice, that means boring or Christian. Well, neither of those things are true.
Right. So, yeah, how many of those readers watch while you were sleeping and enjoyed that? And there's not spice in that one, but it's so popular, right? So
yeah. Oh yeah. People just don't realize that. And I actually had a girl who's like, well, I feel like spicy romance has more tension. And I was like, let me explain to you what tension is. Like, I was reading a spicy book and I was like, why can't they be together anymore? They obviously really like each other. So I couldn't even remember the reason they couldn't be together. And then when it came to the black moment part, they just broke up because we said 2 weeks and that's it. 2 weeks are over. Now we're done. And I was like, well, that feels kind of like what? You know?
Yeah. It's kind of interesting because the tension is the tension. That's your plot. And like, that has nothing to do with the steam level.
Right.
And sometimes it's trickier, I think, to keep that tension up when you do have your, you know, steamier scene, because that kind of dispels so much of the tension. So it's a tricky thing. Laura, let's hear some more of your stuff.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Keep it going around.
This one is from my time when I did sales. So, and I messed up because I should have known this. But when I was a new author, I was obsessive about looking in my KDP account and seeing how much money was coming in and how many sales I was getting. Like, I was getting like RSI from how much I was refreshing. Being like, oh, I got a page read. Somebody's read a page. Anyway, so then I'd be like, oh, wow, I've made $40 this month. And then the next month I'd go, oh, I've made $50 this month. And then the next month I'd go, oh, I made $100 this month. And then the next month I break even. Like, I don't make any money. And then I'm like, I am a failure. This is awful. And you're on this like huge roller coaster of these ups and downs. What they teach you in sales is that sales are seasonal. So your sales are going to fluctuate through the year. So when you're looking at your sales figures, compare your month year to year. So take January at the end of this month, look at what you did in 2021, January. If you're brand new, you did nothing back then. Everything you do now, you're going to be like, I've made so much more than I did last year. Yay me. And it helps you to stay in a point of gratitude and stay level-headed, because it's so easy to get, I mean, I've nearly quit so many times because I broke even or I lost money one month and then the next month I do really well. So yeah,
I think that's so good, and being grateful. Like, I was struggling, bring it back to TikTok because that's my life right now. I was struggling because I was looking and I was like, well, I only got 200 views on this one, or I only got 50 views on that one. And then I was like, I'm going to flip it in my brain and I'm going to say, wow, I got 50 views. I am grateful for those 50 views. And that's amazing to put up a video and have 200 people who had never heard of me before view my video. That you can't get anywhere else. And so just changing it, like, even if you took out your amount of money and divided by how many books you sold, you know, like, because you kind of have an average of what your books sold, like, that's people buying your book, that's people finding you, that's people supporting you. So finding that gratitude, like you said, how can you flip this view in your mind and say, I'm grateful, instead of saying I only made $200 this month, you say, I'm grateful I sold 50 books. Mm-hmm. And that changes the way that you're going to view these things that would normally just tear you down.
Absolutely. Yep. I remember back when I was a brand new author, I would think, okay, my goal for today is to sell 2 books. That's all I need to sell, you know, and I would try to do some marketing until I sold 2 books. And then I was like, yay, it's a success. And so I tried to keep my goals really low so that I wouldn't be disappointed if I didn't make it. But I think keeping in mind that if you sell 10 books today and then tomorrow you sell 0, it's okay, because there's always another tomorrow, and you shouldn't focus on what you didn't do, but what you have accomplished. And so I agree, that mindset thing, that gratitude is super important, because it's super easy to get discouraged. And we did have a comment from Catherine who said, what really shocked me after hitting an Amazon bestseller list was that this doesn't always equate to dollars. It's discouraging. And so, yeah, it can be super discouraging. So if you keep remembering that the things you are grateful for, even if you just sold, 2 books this month, it's 2 people who thought your work was worth spending the money on. And that's something to be happy for.
Yeah.
Before you ever published, did you ever think anybody would spend money on your book? That's super exciting. So.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think that's important to that's why writing goals down is important. I know people feel like they're boxed in, but like, I remember when me and Michelle, before we were like even super published or doing anything, Michelle was like, I just need to make $1,000. If I can make $1,000 a month, then I don't have to go back to work when my kids are all out of school. And like, now, if she made $1,000 a month, Michelle would be like,
right. Right.
So it's like changing that, like, go back, like, take notes or talk about successes that were super exciting for you, so that when you go back, you're like, I was dying for something like this and I have it now. Like, how much your mindset changes, which is also another one, like keeping blinders on, keeping in your lane, or realizing that somebody else's success, you can't have someone else's success if you don't do what that person does. And even then, it doesn't matter. Like, Elena has insane success, and she makes long posts about everything she does. And I look at it and I'm like, I don't want to do any of those things, like, I don't know. No. But then you realize she has this success because that is what she does. I can't be like, why don't I have Elena success, but I don't want to do what she's doing? Like, you have to realize that as well.
Yeah, that kind of touches on something that I wanted to bring up, is that you're starting this probably, if you're a brand new author, because you want to write stories. You're not going into this because you see this as like a get rich quick kind of thing, right? And at the same time, we like to promote the, understanding that you can make really good money doing this, especially as a self-published or indie author. And so I think that one of the most important things you can go into this understanding is that there's like 2 different hats you have to wear, and one of those hats is the creator that's creating the product, and the other hat is the business person. And so it's really hard. Some of us were not necessarily built, I could just like flash my giant hand, Some of us, we're not necessarily built for the business part of it. Like that's not, we're not an entrepreneur by heart. We're not excited by the thought of selling and marketing and that sort of thing. But we have to learn how to do it anyway, because that's how we find readers, and that's how we are able to continue writing. And so start preparing yourself that you're going to have to learn both sides of this business. Even if you're going to go traditionally, like down the traditional route, there's going to be a lot of business decisions that you're going to have to make. You're going to have to be really savvy with contracts, with taxes, with managing any money that you make. I mean, there's no escaping the fact that if you're going to sell books, you're going to have to be able to function as a business person as well. And then I would also look at it as, don't ever forget why you started this. Hold on to that, because it's that need, that desire to tell stories that makes us fun and keeps us going. For most of us, it's probably not going to be the business side that is the super exciting part. So don't lose the fun part that you started this for in the wash of everything you got to do as a business person.
Good. I love that. All right, oh, go ahead.
No, I just have one more I want to do, and then I'll be quiet.
There
good. Is no original idea. Your book is not original, your title is not original, and your cover is not original. It is not you. It has not taken 3,000 years for you to be born to create this one book. So if you realize that, you get a lot more humble. Like you are accumulation of everybody else who has written a book, watched a movie, did a TV show. You are, and so there's going to be things that you take. Harry Potter was not original. Her secret sauce. Now your secret sauce is original, but stories are not. Harry Potter was Star Wars, was Lord of the Rings, was Hero's Journey. There is no original idea. And it is hard not to be like, but it is, because it came from my brain. It's the first time I'm ever thinking of it. No, not happening. You are a reader, a consumer of media and literature. You are going to vomit that back out. So if you realize that, it will help you realize that I'm just grateful I wrote this story. I'm going to give this story my secret sauce, and then I'm going to let it do what it does. You'll be a much happier author if you realize that.
Perfect. That's good. All right. My number one thing is, as a brand new author, I wish someone would have told me that market research is super important. No one ever said that researching what's already selling is important. But when I think about it, if you were going to open up like a chicken restaurant, shouldn't you know if crispy chicken sells better than baked chicken? I mean, you should do your research and figure out what is selling in that market. So as writers, we need to do our research and figure out what is selling in the genre that we're writing in, so that we know, and don't, obviously you're not going to copy what everybody else is doing, but you're going to put your own spices in there and you're going to make it original. But you also know that people aren't buying chicken that's
soggy. I thought you were going to say soggy a minute ago.
That's soggy chicken. Exactly. That's not a thing. Don't make soggy chicken. So that's my number one.
But I think also, because I wrote this down too, it's easy to go, okay, well, I'm just going to write in this box of expectations, right? And you kind of will lose what you love. So I wrote, write what you love with a plan. So know, how am I going to market it? How am I going to push it? How am I going to let readers know that this is what they want to read? But also writing what I enjoy. Now I look back and I think, well, I don't know if all the books I wrote I enjoyed. And that's not true, because I know I liked all the books that I read, or I liked all the books that I wrote. And sometimes I have to reread them to remember why I liked them. But now it's like, well, if you wanted to add a little bit something extra, your secret sauce, that's great. But know that when you boil it down and you sit there and you have a 15-second video that you have to explain to somebody why they should buy your book, you need to have that planned as well. So don't just write everything, all the genres together, and think this is my idea, it's perfect, and it makes so much money. But write what you love, but with a plan.
Good.
I'm afraid
Good.
you're about to get arrested back there, Anne Marie.
I know. I was watching him.
The grammar police have finally arrived. No, just author joke. Okay, so I would say one of the things I would tell new authors is be careful about the toxicity that can be out there in the author world. Don't contribute to it, and don't let it get to you. Like I was on TikTok, and we're all talking about TikTok. I saw one author stitching another author where they were talking about how horrible or crazy it was authors were claiming to write a book in a month, and that there was no way a book that was written that fast could possibly be good. And they were just like going on and on and on. And then the comments, it just took it further. I was like, that is such a toxic mindset to say, because I can't imagine doing that, there's no way anybody else could. And because I can't imagine doing it, there's no way they can do it and do it well. Because it takes me a year to write a good book. Clearly, that's the only way you can write a good book. It's just like there, and that's just like one small example. There's a lot of it out there. And just remember that you're going to get so much further by supporting other authors and being their cheerleader, and by sharing what's working, and just being a healthy community than in tearing each other down. And one of the reasons is that not only are you collectively going to be happier and put out more good work, but it's also creating a thriving marketplace, right? The more authors we have that are putting out good work, the happier our readers are going to be, and the more they're going to come back to the marketplace. And so everybody, I think that too many authors get really competitive with other authors, and there's no reason to be, because readers are not buying one book their entire life and it's a blood sport trying to be the one book that they're going to buy. No, the more readers buy, the more good books they read, the more they're going to desperately want more of them. And so as authors, we are not each other's competition, and there's no reason to be.
Well, it's like what
cows.
TikTok says, to jump on trends. And how many times, like, just think of yourself. You watch a trend, you participate, you consume something, right? So for me, it's TikTok. I watch people doing this trend. I will click on that trend and I will go watch 20 to 30 more different videos of different people doing that exact same trend. We like habit, we like similarities, we like those things. You read a zombie book, you're back on Amazon looking for zombie books. I remember a librarian telling me, what is with the traditionally published companies thinking that vampires are dead? They're not. I'm a school librarian, and so many kids come into my school after they read, or come in after they read Twilight, and they're like, I want more vampires. And they're like, what?
Oh dear. Do you need
You have a new drink.
Uh-oh. that like startled me. I was like, my soda's gonna go all over the place. Anyways, and so, but we get it in our heads, like, and having been a person who wrote in a genre and was very quiet about it, I was like, I have no one to target, because nobody else is writing in this or writing the same type of thing. So it's not bad. It's good. It's healthy. No, stop yanking it.
I'm going to tell
What we
you,
need to do.
Yeah, that's
just
so
like
true.
you're saying, it seemed like everything in clean romance was getting flooded with women's fiction, and everybody was going to women's fiction. I was like, that's not really for me. And so I went over and I started writing rom-com, and then like clean rom-com specifically, because rom-com was already doing great, but clean rom-com, it was like a empty room that nobody had found in the manor yet. And I was like, I went over there, there were just like 2 or 3 of us kind of peeking our heads in the door, and then it just went really well. And now all of a sudden it's like party central in there, and like it's standing room only, and we need a bigger room. but it's meant success for everybody that's doing it, right? Because before, it was really hard to find a clean rom-com on Amazon. Super hard.
Yeah,
And now you can't hardly throw a stick without hitting a clean rom-com on Amazon.
I wanted to say, it will not hurt your business, but if you uplift other authors, if you cheerlead. I mean, about a year ago, I kind of made this decision do you know what? I'm going to read just indie author books generally. I'm going to tell my readers about the books that I'm really enjoying. I'm going to be a cheerleader for all the people in my genre, and even not in my genre, but are like still clean. And it's changed everything. Like, it hasn't hurt my business. I think it's helped because readers then see you as someone who obviously reads in the genre, and someone who's not, like, readers sense, like, you know how J.K. Rowling has, like, with her platform and her like, people have gone from just absolute adoration, putting her on a pedestal, which I think was not good anyway, because people are so human, and then just like through a couple of Twitter posts, like, lots of people suddenly have a completely different opinion of her. I think readers, they want to get to know the authors, but if you put yourself forward and you come across as a bit negative, or you putting down other authors, like, another thing I would put on my list was, do not give other authors bad reviews with your name. Like, if you want to have your own reader name and it's like can't be tracked back to you, fair enough, you do you, but don't do it. Like, it actually just hurts you, and it goes off what Anne-Marie was saying about how it says more about you than the book that you're reviewing. If they see authors that are like, it wasn't written very well, and it was, the ending was clearly rushed, it just doesn't look good for your brand. So just be aware that as an author, you are a brand. Even if you are writing under a pen name and you have an avatar or a cartoon or whatever, you have a brand and you need to uphold that. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
You can always tell when a review is written by another author or an English teacher.
Too many point of view switches.
Yeah, they're a little too specific in the structure of your story. Then you're like pretty sure you're not. But I also think it's who you surround yourself with is going to dictate your energy. And if you surround yourself with people who have negative energy, that's the kind of energy that you're going to start putting off too. So be careful, guard yourself. Like, don't, because we like mob mentality, right? We're all like, ooh, what's the drama? Tell me the drama. I want to know. But if you continue to participate in that, or you continue to listen, or we kind of get mob rule type thing, then it's really going to affect you like negatively in your mind and in your mindset. Like, we've talked about where we've gotten off certain social media platforms because it was too negative. It was too in our heads. We were seeing all these other things and it was making us feel bad about ourselves, which is another one is, don't feel like you have to be around everything. You have to participate in everything, and you have to be friends with everyone. Find your small group of people and just stay there. Like, you're going to be much happier than if you try to do all these other things, and just enjoy what you're doing. And if you're feeling yourself going down negative paths, it's going to start affecting your creativity, and then it's going to affect your business. So don't feel like you have to be with people. You can walk away, and that's okay. Yeah. I'm giving you all the right, the permission to walk away if it's just being too much, or getting off a platform, or any of those types of things, getting out of a Facebook group. Just leave. You'll be so much happier if you do.
Yeah. Also, just by finishing a book, you've put yourself in a whole different level, because like 85% of the world's population wants to write a book someday, and like 5% does. And then of that 5%, those who actually write a second book or like sell books is like microscopic.
Yeah.
That is one of the things I always do. When you meet somebody and they find out you're an author, they always say, I want to write a book someday. And I'm never like, no, don't. I'm always like, do it, write a book, because I know you won't. So I'm going to be your cheerleader, because everybody says they want to, and then you get down to it and you're like, this sucks. I'm bleeding onto the page. I don't want to do this. So
yes, it's hard. What you're doing is hard.
Yeah,
it's hard. So like, celebrate yourself just for writing and finishing a book. You're doing something that the vast majority of the world's population wishes they could do, and they haven't done it, and you have.
And if you're in the middle and you're like, I can't finish, just take it in little bites, right? Write the next 100 words and celebrate that. And then write another 100 words and celebrate that, and you don't think of it as, I have to write 65,000 more words. Oh my gosh. Think of it as, I just need to finish this one chapter, and take it in little bits, because it's doable. You just have to think of it in a different way.
Yes.
Also,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
You go ahead. I'm talking about reviews. So like,
yes,
if you're finishing
I was going to talk about that. We can kind of say, I'll say it and then you do. I'll do it quick. So you are not going to please every reader, and don't read your reviews. Don't care about your reviews. I had this author explain it to me once, and it's perfect. He's like, when you are an author and you have a reader, it's like you two are going to a picnic together. And sometimes what you bring to the picnic is going to jive and it's going to be delicious. And sometimes you're going to bring ham and pickles and they're going to bring peanut butter and mayonnaise. And it's just not going to jive. And that's okay. You're just not meant to go on a picnic with that reader. Nothing to do about you, nothing to do about your book. And it doesn't have anything to do with the reader either, because there is a place that they can take their ham and mayonnaise to that's going to be much better than what you could provide them here.
That's a lot better than peanut butter and mayonnaise. Thank you.
I was like, I can't remember what I said.
And I was just going to say about reviews, one thing that is like to help me so much is to realize also that the book I write is not the book the reader's going to read. Like, no matter what I try and do, how I perfect the story, how much I try and provide this specific experience, they're going to bring their own opinions, their own biases, their world, their own past, the way they look at the world, and they're going to bring all that to my story, and it's going to create a completely different experience than the one I wrote. And that's kind of empowering in a way, because for one thing, it lets you know, like Amy said, if it's not something that works for them, a lot of it is probably to do with like what they brought to the story as much as what you put in it. But also one of my favorite tricks between writing a story and editing a story for publication is to remember that I can write a story just for me. That is exactly the way I want it to be, that hits every particular, candy bar scene that I wanted it to have. But if I look at that and I realize this isn't exactly what the readers like in this genre, or my critique partners or my editors are saying you should really fix this thing, it's okay to let yourself change your baby and be a more marketable product, because the story you wrote for yourself is always there. And you've done that soul satisfying job of writing the story that you enjoyed, and now you can go and put your business hat on and write the book that the market is going to like better. Because, I mean, let's face it, they're going to do what they want with it anyway, but you might as well like take out all the very, very personal things. And sometimes that makes it easier when people say, like, I hate this. What do you mean you hate that? I wrote that after my grandmother. Like, my grandmother's life. You just, like, trashed. Like, no, like.
Yeah.
Put that degree of separation there.
Definitely.
I have one more.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, this is like my biggest tip for people who are brand new. Like, if I could go back in time and be like, Laura, okay, this is the big tip. It's don't push yourself past boundaries, like set boundaries, like early on. I am the type of person that like can get tunnel vision and goes all in and just pushes and pushes and pushes until I literally have nothing left in me, and then I am dead.
Yeah.
So set boundaries, set a routine. So, for me at the moment, because my son's just started school, I can only write between 9 and 10 a.m. As I also homeschool the other two kids, I care full time for my disabled mum. I have a household to run. Like, I don't have the time to be writing all day long. And yet that's sustainable, because if you can just do an hour a day or set some time aside, it doesn't become all consuming. Because before, I would just, every second I had, I would just keep writing. So I'm like, I've got to provide the content. I've just got to produce more books. And then I was finding myself getting really burnt out. And once you get burnt out, it's really hard to get back. So what goes with that is keep refilling your cup. So like, I write rom-coms at the moment, and I have to bring this real positive, happy energy, because I write on the spectrum of like very silly, over the top kind of rom-com, to make people like literally feel like they've had a shot of sugar when they read my books. But in order for me to put that into my story, I have to fill myself up with like 10 episodes of Friends back to back while drinking Diet Coke and have a nap. Weird combination, but it works. Because if you just keep giving, like I think people don't realize when you start writing, it's exhausting. Like I had to take naps because you're using your brain in such a way. I mean, it's like exercise, isn't it? So boundaries, and keep refilling that cup so you don't get burnout.
Perfect. All right. Any last overall advice for new authors? Anything here?
I mean, I could go on all day, but go ahead, Amy.
I have one, that there is no one thing that you do that's going to make you all your money. And so be careful that you're not chasing that. Like if I just master Facebook ads, that's where my that's going to be the tipping point. I mean, listening to Elena, she said it wasn't until she was doing a multitude of things that really increased her income to the next level. And it's really going to be a lot of those things. So don't think that, well, if I can just get that one TikTok to go viral, then I'm going to make money the rest of my life. It's just not going to work that way. Finding things that you like to do to market your book, because you will have to market. You have to market, period. If you want to sell books, you have to market. It's just the way it goes. But don't fall into this trap. Because I'm like Laura, I have tunnel vision. I hyper focus, almost to my own mental and physical health detriment. And so I have had to learn to let go of some of that, to maybe not make it. And remember, it's not a make it all right now type of thing. You're going to have books. Books are evergreen and they grow forever. And I keep telling myself, yes, Amy, you want to make 6 figures a month. That's your goal. But it's okay if it takes you 5 years to get to that point. Like, it's okay. You don't have to make it right now. I'm only 35. I have years and years and decades of writing left in me. I have not written my explosive bestseller book yet. I'm going to keep writing and keep publishing and taking care of my family with what I do make. And then when that does happen, it's going to be exciting. And I'm probably going to panic and freak out. But I will have experience of, this is a one-time thing. It just aligned perfectly, and I'm going to be grateful for where it is, and hopefully meet Chris Hemsworth. You know, if you say something enough, it will happen. This is what I'm learning. So say it out loud all the time, and the universe will align. So just don't think, or don't feel like if I didn't get on that train, I will never make money, because that can be another thing as well that is not good for your mental health. So it's really a combination of a lot of things that cause success. It's not just one type of marketing or one type of thing.
Absolutely.
And before we wrap up, I would just say that there's so much more. But if you were watching this from YouTube and you haven't discovered our Facebook group, I would highly suggest you go and join our Facebook community, because there is so much discussion going on there for new authors. And we do not stop new authors from asking their questions that they have, even if a dozen new authors have asked that question before. So we try and keep it very friendly for new authors, so that you guys can get the information that you're looking for, and that we know can be kind of hard to find out there. So
absolutely. All right, next week I would like to discuss what new authors should know craft-wise, because we kind of just gave general advice. I knew Michelle would be all excited about talking about craft. So next week we're going to be talking about craft. So all your craft questions, if you have questions, you can ask them in the Writing Gals group. I will start a craft. I can't even say that. Craft questions thing, a post for new authors, and we will answer all your questions and talk about all the things new authors need to know about craft. And we'll do that next week. And thank you guys for joining us live. And if you're catching this on the replay, thank you for watching. And we will catch you again next week at the same time on Thursday.
Thank you. Be sure and subscribe.
Bye.